If you were to imagine the perfect tropical paradise, sunny skies, sparkling warm water and pristine beaches, Tuvalu is as close to it as anywhere on Earth. The country is a narrow strip of tiny islands halfway between Australia and Hawaii that's made all the more special by its isolation. Yet for all its wonder, the people of Tuvalu are facing a devastating threat. Rising sea levels mean their home is disappearing. And what's really frightening is how quickly it's happening. But all is not lost yet. A group of ingenious Australians are working to raise the height of the island in an extraordinary engineering feat that's also having significant political implications. It's the least visited country on Earth, but looking around, you have to wonder why. Everywhere you turn in Tuvalu looks like a postcard.
There are no mountains, no hills, no rivers. And all we've got is the surrounding waters, the ocean.
11,000 people call this place home. It's a tropical paradise where life is full of simple joys. But behind their smiles, there's great sadness and fear. Because almost the entire country will be underwater within 50 years. For MP Seve Painu, watching his country disappear is heartbreaking.
It's quite sad, really, and it's something that I'm deeply worried about.
Your land consumed by the ocean you love.
Yeah, that's the end of Tuvalu civilization, end of Tuvalu culture. That's something that we cannot comprehend.
It's something James Lewis can't comprehend either.
We're going to lose a nation, you know. If Tuvalu goes, who's next? And how can we consciously let this happen?
The coastal engineer is from the Gold Coast, but Tuvalu has become his second home. He spent the best part of 4 years here, contracted by the United Nations to try to protect the country from rising sea levels. Why is Tuvalu so vulnerable?
It's because of its low-lying nature. You're just half a metre, 1 metre above the sea. You're floating on a raft, basically, but it's made out of sand. So when the tide comes up through the island, just because it's so low and so close to the edge of the ocean.
Like everyone who lives here, James knows the closeness to the ocean is what makes this place beautiful. But it's also why the country doesn't stand a chance during king tides. Every time the tide rises to more than 1.5 metres, you better get your gumboots because this pocket of paradise turns into a flood zone.
The crazy thing is that this is not from rain or waves coming over, this is water coming up through the island. The island's porous, so because the tide's so high, it's coming up through the water table, bubbling up through the road, bubbling up through the island and through people's houses.
We're looking at homes and families cut off.
That's right, this is the main road to access between the north and the south of the island. My house is over there, I can't get through at the moment until the tide goes down. It's crazy.
But how often does this happen?
Close to this tide, we'll probably get monthly now, from now on in. When it rains on top of this, it all adds up. So, you know, this is a bluebird day and we're knee-deep in water.
Viola Meko's house sits right in the middle of the main island, as far from the ocean as possible. But still, this is her front yard during a king tide.
Living like this is really hard. It damages the house. Sometimes it damages especially the bikes and the cars, because it's corrosive, the seawater.
Are you worried you're going to lose your home?
I am worried. I know these houses have the septic tanks underneath it, and every time the water comes up, if you think about it standing inside the water that you know is contaminated, it's usually not very good way to live, especially with my baby around.
What Vi worries about the most is the frightening future ahead for her little boy. She fears by the time Theo grows up, there will be hardly anything left of his homeland. James Lewis knows full well it's a valid concern. How much worse is it going to look?
Well, this is 2060, just under normal tides. No waves, no storms. 50%
of the island we're on would be underwater on monthly, daily high tides.
It's not long at all.
No. We extend that out to 2100 and we're looking at 95% of this island is underwater just by daily tides. That's without storms and anything else.
It's an unfathomable forecast for the people of Tuvalu, but remarkably, they still have hope. Even though their country is one of the worst hit by rising sea levels, it's also becoming the best example of how the problem can be solved. James came here as an engineer, but he'll leave more like a saviour. He's helped build the first stage of an incredible project to quite literally keep the main island afloat.
We're keeping a country going, you know.
This is the first stage of the grand plan. 7.5 hectares of new land built from the ocean up, not just as a barrier to stop waves, but also as a platform high enough above the sea to stop water rising up through the ground, causing a flood.
Basically raising the shoreline of 800 metres of vulnerable coast 2 metres above the highest tide at the moment, which will keep them flood-free till 2100.
So it looks like a white strip of sand here, but what's underneath there?
Yeah, so underneath we've got huge mega containers, you know, over 100 tonnes in weight. Looks like big sausages on the reef edge. And then out the front we've got some smaller geotextiles to protect them just in case from nicks or boats or, you know, any flotsam in the area.
At first, no one was sure if it would actually work, but so far it has. A remarkable engineering feat that's making another Queenslander, Cameron Hall, and his team very proud.
Not the worst place in the world to set up shop and work?
Yeah, Adam, it's certainly a bit of paradise out here. It's a little bit different to Port Hedland in West Australia or Darwin.
Over 6 months, this dredge sucked up sand from the bottom of the lagoon and pumped it through the ocean in pipes up onto the worksite.
We had 40-odd people there, dozers, excavators, people building the seawall, the bags. They feel like they're achieving something. They actually feel like they're leaving behind a real legacy and making a difference to the lives of the people.
There's not much work back home where you're saving a country.
Well, that's right. It's interesting to build a road in southeast Queensland, but for them it's more interesting to create land for people that otherwise will have no hope.
The proof it works is undeniable. While the old land is flooded during high tide, the new land looks like a desert.
This is your work, doing this job right now?
Yep, at the moment there, this is the highest tide. We've still got, you know, at least 2 metres up till the highest point there. Land here is so valuable, and we've just created another 7 hectares that's dry, flood-free.
But this is only the beginning. The long-term plan is to build enough new land for everyone in Tuvalu, so the entire population can move to higher ground.
So it looks like you're almost doubling the existing island.
Yeah, more than doubling the existing island, but raising it up. It'll incorporate huge new green port facilities, commercial areas, obviously a huge residential area. You know, you're not going to get inundated every day, you know, underneath your floorboards from water.
Solving Tuvalu's climate crisis is something the Australian government is just as conscious of. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has signed a groundbreaking deal offering Tuvaluans a ticket to Australia to escape their sinking country. But coming up, what else did he put in the fine print? Nowhere else in the world can you join a soccer match on an international runway.
Oh, they're all on ya!
But in Tuvalu, this is a daily tradition. One of many the locals are desperate to preserve as they fight to stop their country vanishing into the ocean because of rising sea levels.
You know, I've grown very close to this community and I'd hate to see no future for them or having to move away. You've probably already felt the warmness of the people here and the very unique traditions. To see that go would be such a shame.
Coastal engineer James Lewis is working hard to save Tuvalu. He's designed new land that sits much higher above the sea so the entire population can eventually move to safer ground. But it's not the only option on the table. Tuvaluans could move to Australia instead, under a landmark treaty our government signed last year.
This is a groundbreaking agreement.
It's no surprise Australia wanted to be the one to help, given Tuvalu's location in the hotly contested Pacific region, where China is spending billions in other countries to try to gain the upper hand.
It is the most comprehensive agreement any Australian government has entered into with a Pacific country.
From our side, we're very happy to have you here, Minister, and welcome.
Foreign Minister Penny Wong nutted out the deal with members of Tuvalu's government, including Seve Painu, who was then the Climate Minister.
We rely so much on our waters, yet it is also our enemy, posing a big danger and risk to the existence of Tuvalu going forward.
The treaty offers a way out, allowing up to 280 Tuvaluans a year to move to Australia. It doesn't sound like many, but Seve says it doesn't matter, because fleeing overseas is the last resort.
I don't think there would be many that want to go. Our culture is Tuvalu, and therefore we would like to maintain our culture in Tuvalu rather than taking it away and leaving it somewhere else.
The most interesting thing about the treaty has nothing to do with climate change and everything to do with China. When the deal was signed last year, it stopped Tuvalu making security and defence agreements with other countries without Australia's permission. That gave our government the extraordinary power to block any future alliance between Tuvalu and Beijing.
Tuvalu's view is to take that out, but Australia put that into the document. We were really running out of time, and it didn't allow a proper opportunity for vetting the entire document.
You were rushed.
There was limited time available for us. We wouldn't like Australia or any other country for that matter to determine our own fate. And especially in terms of security purposes.
Did we, as a country, just try to slip that in?
No, look, nothing was... No, not at all. I mean, we had very open, frank and respectful discussions with Tuvalu.
There was a suggestion that it was quite rushed.
No, not at all, actually. I know Minister Seve well. I met with him when I was in Tuvalu. This was very comprehensively discussed between us and the government, and we were very upfront about what we were able to do, what we were putting on the table, and they were very clear about what they wanted as well.
What Tuvalu wanted was a promise that Australia will help protect them from climate change or any other threat they might one day face, like a natural disaster or war. It's a small price to pay when you consider what we get in return. It effectively, though, gives you a veto in the back pocket, right? So if they want to have any sort of arrangement with China, that you could step in, we can step in and just say, not happening.
Well, the security guarantee has a mutuality to it, including that we will provide security for them.
Do we need to keep China out of Tuvalu at all costs?
Look, China's a great power and it's doing what great powers do. You know, they press for their interests. They work hard to increase their influence. We have to work much harder to be a partner of choice. And we have to think about, well, how do we engage in a way that reflects our motivation, which isn't domination, it's partnership, and reflects the respect for the countries of the Pacific.
Beijing, they have their agenda, but their agenda always brings some disasters to the area, the way I look at it. Because
Australia is not the only country concerned that China has its eyes on Tuvalu.
Taiwan is always wanted to be an international player.
Taiwan is so worried, their Deputy Foreign Minister, Tien Chung Kwang, has come all the way here to firm up their friendship.
I think not only Taiwan should be concerned, I think Australia, the United States, New Zealand in that matter should pay more attention because the equilibrium been changed once China comes in. They come in with warships sometimes and warplanes.
How do you combat that potential influence?
First of all, we don't compete with China, because the democracy never compete with totalitarian regimes, which is not apple to apple, number one. But rest assured, Taiwan will do whatever they need and whatever Taiwan is capable to offer.
But that strategy has failed in other Pacific Island nations. Nauru, the Solomon Islands and Kiribati have all switched their ties from Taipei to Beijing in the last 5 years, leaving Tuvalu as one of only 3 allies in the region. Why do you think some Pacific Islands are shifting to Beijing?
Well, probably some politicians, they have their personal agenda. I can only say this. They've been wooed.
But you're confident Beijing's not going to woo Tuvalu?
No, maybe they try. Maybe they try. They always try, but I don't think they're going to succeed in Tuvalu.
This is the man Beijing will be trying to impress if it wants to gain a foothold in Tuvalu.
So, Prime Minister, this is Tuvalu Parliament?
Yes, this is the chamber.
The Prime Minister, Feleti Teo, who only got the job last month. Have you fielded offers from China to help?
Well, not me. We haven't even contemplated any Beijing issues in our new administration, and we don't intend to do that so soon after we are in office.
Longer term, can you rule it out entirely?
Well, right now, we don't have any basis to contemplate that scenario. I'm sorry, but I have far more immediate development challenges to address.
At the top of the PM's list is climate change. The Coastal Adaptation Project, designed and built by Australians, has a long way to go. So far, it's cost $55 million. Australia chipped in $2 million, and the rest came from Tuvalu and the Green Climate Fund, a pool of donations from around the world. But Tuvalu will need much more to pull off the rest of the plan and build enough new land to move the entire population to higher ground. I don't think you can put a price on saving a country, can you? But how much is all that going to cost?
It's going to be into billions.
That's a lot of money. Where does it come from?
Well, I will continue to plead to the good hearts of our development partners and international and regional organizations that do have the resources to help Tuvalu build its resilience against the impact of climate change.
Expensive, yes, but it's been worth it, I think, as you see. And at the end of the day, it's a drop in the ocean to what you're saving, definitely.
As exciting as it is to see phase 1 of his dream design now complete, the science isn't what drives James Lewis. He's in it for the giant smiles on these faces, knowing they'll have a home for generations to come. Why should Australians back home care about what happens here?
Why shouldn't we? You know, we're going to lose a culture, something so precious. They're so close to us as far as, our Pacific neighbours. Can we stand by and watch this happen? I know I can't.
Hello, I'm Adam Hegarty. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.